Hello, welcome to Access. I'm Nathan. I'm here with Dave.
Hello.
Dave, it's time to talk about some footballs.
Talk FIFA to me.
So I've been to see FIFA 17.
Wow.
I played that damn thing.
You are lucky.
I know, right? I've got some thoughts about it. Basically, I'm here to report to you on 7 things that you've been waiting for that are now there in the game.
You've read my mind.
One other thing, what you're going to be seeing underneath this video is FIFA 16 footage, just some of me and Dave playing our co-op seasons game, because there's nothing on FIFA 17 yet, but we'll bring it to you as soon as there is. So I'm going to just jump right in. Number 1, Dave, is now on the Frostbite engine.
Wow.
I know. Yeah, did you?
DICE.
I can see you genuinely didn't know that. Yeah, which means you didn't watch the trailer, because it's in the trailer. But yeah, it's from DICE. Do you remember in Tiger Woods a couple of years ago where they just put like a huge, was it a warship or something? They were just like, now we're in the same technology as Battlefield. Look at this. Bang.
Yeah.
They didn't do that this time, but what they did show off was some very nice volumetric lighting.
Okay.
So basically what they've... I spoke to Nick Channon, who's the senior producer, and I did ask him, what does this mean for gameplay?
Yeah.
Was it hard to get the gameplay working in Frostbite? And they didn't really answer that question, because what they're focusing on is what Frostbite allows them to do with, and this is why it ties into the title of this video, what people have been asking for a long time. And people have been asking for stuff away from the pitch. This is definitely true. And every time a football game has tried to do this, it's looked a bit silly or a bit bad.
Yeah.
And this time, so now they've got like different areas. The tunnel is in the game.
Okay.
There are like first-class lounges. Like they've built lots of things, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Lots of things away from the game, from the pitch, kind of a world around football. There's really specific facial texturing things which are going on, and animations, which they think brings a new kind of level of emotion to the game, which is interesting. I think we can be candid and say that normally, I think probably it's fair to say PES has had better player likenesses, like in the top tier.
Yeah.
So I think that's an area which they know that FIFA fans would like them to improve upon.
Yeah.
That's kind of happening, and I cannot stress enough. They also showed us an aerial shot of Old Trafford.
Yeah.
In the new Frostbite engine, and it looked incredible. And I don't think FIFA's stadiums ever look bad.
Yeah.
But this time they had, when you're so imagine a Champions League game.
Yeah.
And it was from as if there was like a blimp above it.
Yeah.
And so all the lights are on, and the air is like humid. It's like maybe an autumn night, and the light is coming through the humidity.
Yeah.
And the whole thing just looks like a charged kind of atmosphere.
Yeah.
It looked amazing. It looks like, when you get like those amazing kind of old black and white often, shots of stadiums, you just think, wow, that looks like, what a place to be, and like what's going to, and it's like this incredible stage for the football that's about to happen. They basically look like that.
That sounds amazing.
So that's quite exciting.
Well,
so
I'm looking forward to that.
So Frostbite, so that's what they're doing. Gameplay changes on Frostbite, not sure. Presentation, it's happening.
Right.
And part of the reason that they've been building those things is because number 2, there's a new story mode.
I'm excited about this.
Yeah, and I was a bit surprised at first, because FIFA Ultimate Team is like the reason that people can't stop playing FIFA.
Yeah.
Do they need another one? And again, I asked this question. Nick Channon said that they get all the data about what modes people play. People play still a lot of career mode.
Funnily enough, Nick, I'm one of those people. I've taken Yeovil to the top of the Premier League. We're currently in the Champions League. I'm in my 5th season.
You were telling me about having up the difficulty because Rob was kind of teasing you.
Yeah.
And how angry that made you in the end.
Well, unfortunately, I went from a 10-point lead midway through the season to coming second in the last game of the season. But don't worry about that. Tell me about career mode.
So this is called The Journey.
Right.
And it is fixed upon a single, and they've made a character, so you don't get to put yourself in it.
Okay.
And that's a deliberate choice, they've said, because if you're going to write a believable story with believable characters, it's kind of harder if you don't know what that character's going to be.
Yeah.
I accept that. And it's basically a breaking in story. So it's only in the Premier League, but you can choose any Premier League club, and your character, who's called Alex Hunter, he is breaking into the first team. The slightly unrealistic part of it is that he's breaking into the first team with like a childhood friend of his who was also an excellent footballer called Gareth Walker.
Right.
And Gareth is slightly ahead of him in kind of the pecking order, which then obviously lends this kind of drama and rivalry element to it. And what we're looking at is like an RPG kind of thing, right? So the story arc, they say, is fairly fixed, which is, you're breaking into the first team. Hopefully you end up in the first team and doing quite well.
Yeah.
The gameplay is all be a pro style, so you are locked to Alex Hunter, and you have like objectives for every game. You've got a player rating, but what they're trying to do is they're bringing elements from around his life. So you see him and his friend in the changing room before they're both making their professional debut. And you get like little dialogue options. They've said they've spoken to both DICE just about how to do these dramatic scenes. They've spoken to BioWare, who are another EA studio, about how branching dialogue can best be deployed and stuff like that. And man, like some of it is simple, like to the point where you're kind of, I was a bit cynical about it. It's deliberately pressing very big emotional buttons. So, you're there with your supposed friend, and I chose to be quite supportive. I was like, go out and score a goal for me, mate.
Yeah.
And he stood up, ignored my fist bump, and said, it's time to make my mark.
Wow.
And I was like, well, you're not really my friend, are you? But also, it meant that when I came on 70 minutes, I was playing for Man U in this little preview build at Old Trafford, I think, against Liverpool.
Yeah.
It was 1-1, and my objective was impress the boss, break the deadlock, and I was like, I'm gonna smash it, I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
I was like, I missed a few times, and I was furious. So even though it is, it's like, this guy hates you, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna beat him. It's quite an obvious kind of motivation. Man, it works.
Yeah.
And obviously the test of it will be how deep the kind of variability of it is, because what their plan is that how you perform on the pitch will affect the things that happen to you off the pitch and all the areas that Frostbite now allows them to make. So you can get hauled into the coach's office. You can I think at one point in the story you'll be going out on loan, and I think that the way that you perform will affect the things that happen to you off the pitch.
It's very interesting that it isn't just on the pitch though, because I can imagine it. I can imagine just here's some story. Now you're on the pitch and go and do something. But it's very interesting that they've dialogue options. That's kind of amazing.
I think they basically didn't want to do like cutscenes and then you're still just playing FIFA. They wanted to try and make it, and you can upgrade his traits. So there's like some customizability to the kind of the player that you make him into as well.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, man. I don't know. Obviously NBA 2K has got Living the Dream.
Yeah.
Which is quite I think people really wanted that. I think that talking to the 2K guys at the time. So we'll see how this goes down, and then I'm sure if people play it, then it will come back bigger and stronger next time.
I'm excited about it.
Number 3 is simply throw-ins.
Okay.
They be fixed. So I mean,
Right.
we've all complained about this.
Yeah.
You're stuck there. It's obvious where you're going to throw it, and then half the time it gets intercepted.
Yeah.
Now you can move up and down the touchline a little bit.
Okay.
Nothing crazy, so that obviously you just get a little bit of flexibility there. You can dummy throw, and it just makes everything
That sounds very
that
smart.
much easier. Yeah. So these are things that we're really moving into just fix this, please.
Yeah.
And they have, and then number 4 is actually they've had a whole set piece overhaul this season. So if throw-ins is obviously annoys me enough to make a whole entry, I'm sticking the rest of them into number 4, which is corners, free kicks and penalties.
Okay.
So what they've done with corners is instead of blindly aiming like you used to do, they have a reticule now, and you can switch that off if you're playing mano a mano, or ladio.
True.
And the reticule is not as easy as it sounds, because it always wants to come back into the middle of the penalty area, so you have to be quite skilled to balance the stick to get it where you want.
Right, so you're sort of constantly. It's not like you just place it, you just plonk it exactly where you want and just hit go.
You're fighting.
You're fighting it. And does it give you an arc? Does it show you the flight of the ball?
No, it doesn't. No, and then you are still using a power to kind of judge how high or how fast it goes. You can put on. Last year they introduced the pass with precision modifier on R1.
Right.
You can use that with corners. So basically, all I try to do, I put it kind of right on the corner of the 6-yard box on the near side, and then I was trying to flash a ball in so that someone could run in near post and flick a header on. I hit the post a couple of times doing that. I didn't actually score, but just that I could do that. I couldn't. That level of control, I think, is really interesting.
That sounds really exciting, actually.
Free kicks have been pulled down, so the camera is now kind of over your shoulder. If you imagine, you remember the old arena mode?
Yes.
It's kind of like that, and the idea is that when you strike the ball, especially if you're having a shot on goal, you'll be able to see the trajectory kind of from the pitch perspective.
Okay.
So that's quite interesting. And you've got more control over your run-up, and I didn't really have enough time to kind of see how that worked in free kicks. But I did in penalties. And penalties, that whole timed press little mini game, essentially, that it used to be. That's all gone. And now you control, with the left stick, you control your run-up.
Okay.
So you can run up slowly, you can curve your run-up, and it just gives you so much more. It's more like basically taking a single shot. And then when you get to the ball, then you aim as before, and it's like almost any other shot. So they're actually quite easy to miss, but when you get a bit better at them, you've got loads more control.
So there's no worrying about that bar that's going through the red to green?
Not in the version I played, no.
And that sounds like it's going to get really kind of psychological. You know, people are going to do all kinds of little slow, weird, stuttery runs.
And it's actually I found it quite difficult to get to grips with. So I had a little penalty shootout, and I scored 2 out of my 5, and I won. Impact Engine, was it? 2012, so it's for quite a long time.
Yeah.
They've obviously wanted to make it more sophisticated, and what they've done this year is they have it's like it supersedes that. It condenses it all into one thing, because I think it's kind of a dark art. You know, like sometimes I'll play good players and I'll be like, how the hell are they getting me off the ball with that tiny little man?
Yeah.
And I think once you know the game really well, it's easier. Or last year, sorry, but now everything is mapped to L2. So if you want to be physical with somebody, you press L2. So that means if a defender is coming in to try and tackle you, you press L2. Doesn't matter if he's behind you. It means your player is then he knows he's in a fight.
Right.
And similarly, if you want to put pressure on someone who's on the ball, L2. And if they're not pressing L2 back, you're more likely to win it. And if they are, then it goes into this is what's new. I think before there was it's a contentious area. People always talk about scripting.
Yeah.
Which is when the game doesn't really have like a sophisticated system for determining who is stronger or not, but you kind of get locked into like a scripted animation.
Yeah.
But now the players are very much independent bodies who are meeting each other, and the big load of kind of development work here, I think, is the way that they have worked out, like where the forces are interacting with each other, who's going to win, who's going to be off balance.
Right.
And it's basically in the same way that, years and years ago, the ball became an independent object which was kicked around the field.
Yeah.
I think they're basically introducing more of that kind of emergent gameplay into the kind of physical play of the game.
Right.
And I don't think it's a bad thing, but I struggled with it in the time that I had with it. Only in as much as L2 used to be the careful, I can't remember what it's called, the carefully dribbling.
Like close control.
Yeah, and I used to use that a lot. I used to run up the wing, and if I knew that the defender was going to catch me, I would use close control, then maybe fake one way and go another. So I was trying to hold up the ball like that this time, and my man thought I wanted him to be physical.
Right.
So obviously just the button change there has kind of messed me up, and I really need to kind of get to grips with it. But I did enjoy the other stuff. It kind of opens up other areas. So previously, if, say, there was a long ball up front, or, like goal kicks are a really good one. Ball's in the air, you challenge for it on the halfway line. All you could ever do, if there was another player in your vicinity, was challenge for the header. Like, the game literally wouldn't let you do anything else. Now, if you press L2, your man will try and hold him off with, an arm.
Right.
And it knows that you want to bring the ball down and control the ball, which is, the example they used is, Zlatan or Drogba. Those players are big enough and strong enough that they don't want to just flick it and hope. They want the ball at their feet.
That's something I've always wanted. Like, goal kicks is an excellent example. Just that ball in the air. Like, you don't always just want to pass it off. Sometimes there is nowhere to pass it off.
Exactly. You don't want to just header it into nowhere, do you? So, I thought that was... I'm excited about physical play. I think that's where a lot of the... when people play it for the first time, FIFA 17, that's the thing that's going to be like, whoa, this is different. And it's going to take some learning. So we'll update you when we play it again. Number 6 is Active Intelligence System, which is one of them, it's one of them titles that they come up with every year I just think it must be so hard because they're changing so much stuff, and then they want to group certain changes in it, and so they can explain them to us in an intelligible way.
Yes.
Active Intelligence System is basically how the game understands space, right? So it's quite a complicated thing where each one of the 22 players on the pitch, or at least the ones that aren't being controlled by humans, understand what space is good and what space is bad, and that determines where they move, because they're all like little algorithms, really.
Yeah.
So they know that they need to cover the goal if they're defenders. They know if they're attackers that moving towards the goal is good.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to be more sophisticated. So they're trying to give an awareness of sometimes space is good. Sometimes you can make a run and not get the ball.
Yeah.
And sometimes direct lines aren't always the best way to run. Basically what it means is sometimes a player in the middle how many times have we all played FIFA and I've screamed at the TV, why are you not making that run?
Yeah.
And it's because the game understands football in a different way to people, and it thinks it's doing, I'm going towards the goal. That's good, right?
Yeah.
Instead of drawing the defender away or curving a run behind the defence. So basically, this is one area really where 5 or 6 games, which is what I had, probably is not enough to know what effect this is having. But in the videos that they showed and the way they explained it, basically, if last year was kind of about making the midfield important and making sure that people could defend quite strong, this is about bringing a kind of a sophistication to the way that attacking runs are made. And it will just open up options. There'll be just new ways that your team around you will behave.
That sounds good, yeah.
I think it's going to be exciting. And number 7, it's just a quick one. They've got real Premier League managers now, so that's I think that's partly the journey. You know, like they've been doing the kind of face scanning for players for years now.
Yeah.
They already had Jose Mourinho in there as the Man United manager for the journey section that we played.
Excellent.
Yeah, man. There's loads more stuff as well. Like, but it's tiny little things.
Yeah.
Like stuff like if you're in a headed challenge now, aerial challenge, you can use the left stick to try and flick the ball onto yourself.
Right.
The little kind of loading mini games, they're multiplayer now. So like I had like
that should
always have been.
Thank God.
Like you can play like little 2-on-2 tournaments with tiny goals and
that's excellent.
Yeah, it's real. And some of them are co-op and some of them are kind of against each other. So, it looks really good. And what I like is, you know, like I've year on year, obviously, like it's easy to get frustrated if you don't feel like enough progress is being made, especially with FIFA, because you're like, it's every year and you want me to pay for it again.
Yeah.
There needs to be something worthwhile. And I think the last 2 years in particular, there have been really big gameplay strides, you know, and even if they haven't been to everyone's liking, it's really good to see that this is something Nick Channon, you know, I said, you know, is gameplay still always your focus? And he said, yeah. And I said, you don't have to like convince, you know, the management there, because FIFA Ultimate Team makes so much money.
Yeah.
And he said, it's not even like a question. Like if people didn't enjoy playing the game, no one would play Ultimate Team.
Yeah.
Everyone knows gameplay is like where it's at. And I think that kind of shows in the last couple of years. So, I mean, you know, there's a long way to go. PES does look cracking this year. But I just think it's a good time to be a football game fan.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And cool. I mean, everyone making football games wants them to be as good as they can be, and these changes, I mean, they all sound really exciting. I know that they listen to what everyone says. It's one of the most vocal communities in games is the football
fans,
community.
Quite loud.
They know what they want, and they will tell you what they want, and those guys are always listening. So those all sound like excellent changes. I'm excited to have a go. And
we're gonna be following this through to release, same as we are with PES 2017. But let us know what you think in particular, so we can kind of direct how we do our coverage. So put down in the comments, you know, what you think about the idea of the journey, what you think about Frostbite, and what other gameplay changes you'd like to see, and maybe I can kind of drop in the comments and let you know if they were there, but we just didn't have time to talk about it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and follow us all this week. We're at E3.